we're kind of turning back the clock on the partner series. The partner series was always something that we wanted to do to try to bring information straight to the customer around whether it be vendor partners and things they have to offer that are exciting, or topics such as shops, online shops. And ideally to continue to just put things out there to help people understand our capabilities, but also understand who's doing it well and things like that. So the idea for us is to go back to using the Zoom platform so that it can be more of an intimate conversation, informal. It'll still be interview format. In this case, Rachel and I'll have a conversation about the online shop that we've done for Service Metal and the things that have worked and the things that haven't, where we've made improvements, et cetera. And I'll give some background on that too. But the idea is that people interact and ask questions, and we'll make sure to leave room for that. So Rachel, before I kind of set some context around just shops and our industry and some of that, will you just kind of introduce yourself to people so they know who you are and where you're at?
My name's Rachel Major. I am the HR project manager for a company called Service Metal. We are in the PVF distribution industry. We sell metal pipe fittings, valves, and flanges to a myriad of industries across the country. We have about 170 employees. We're nationwide at this point, and continuing to grow at an unbelievably awesome rate. It's been a really successful 3 years working with Goodson to kind of curate our culture through apparel and branded items and using them for all sorts of applications to really support that mission of growth. And it's been really successful.
And I always have to say it. So Rachel was a guest on the Brand Herald podcast, so we'll cross promote. Anybody who has time in the car and doesn't have 75 other podcasts they're listening to, you might want to listen to the Brand Herald podcast. Specifically, hold on, Rachel, when was it? It's always farther back than I think. Oh, you were my birthday podcast last year. You were September of 2025. And the thing I told Rachel, like Rachel's background is in government, and she's this like clearly private sector marketing minded person. And so I told her, I said, I'm still having trouble sometimes understanding how that square peg was fitting in that round hole. But I guess maybe that's why you're here.
Yes, it's a good fit now. That's for sure. That's for sure. 110 miles an hour, 24 hours a day is very much a private sector kind of personality, and it's going well.
Yeah. Tell me again, remind me, Rachel, how you got to us in the first place. I should know the answer to this, but I'm trying to remember how you found us.
So, I mean, as far as actual location, I was targeting a company that was kind of on the same page as we were. We're a family-owned company. We have a lot of strong values that operate our mission. And when I was doing the search, right, and shaking down the internet for companies that were like-minded people, you guys came up to the top of the list. And when we did our discovery with you, it was very clear that we were all on the same page as far as what kind of company we have. And our mission, visions, and values are pretty aligned. And it's always good to do business with partners like that.
Yeah. So to be completely honest, most of the folks that come to us, kind of like Kara, they come to us through referrals and actually, Kara, I'll go ahead and ask you since you're on here. You had gotten to us not necessarily through a direct referral, right? But you saw us having done some things for some other companies that you.
Correct. I kind of did some internet sleuthing. Another GC in our market, Frampton. I really like their apparel, and I have some connections there, but I kind of just Googled Frampton Apparel, and then that kind of put me onto our website through them.
Got it. So I shared with Rachel, it's kind of like we're a relational company. And so it's always just kind of interesting to see kind of how we end up, working with folks. But all right. So online shops in our industry are no longer a differentiator. Everybody in our space has online shops. That wasn't always the case, but it definitely is now. So the value and Kara and I had talked about this in the last several months as we started the process of getting theirs built. The real differentiator is how do you operate the shops? What can you offer in terms of products, decoration capabilities, lead times? Lead times has always been a battle for us. There are some inherent limitations when you run on-demand online shops in terms of what actually has to happen once you stop taking orders if you're in like this open and close environment versus 24/7, which we'll talk more about. But it's really interesting. I'm going to use a situation that happened this week maybe to make this point better. So I got an email from Brett, who's on our sales team, from one of our customers that we do not currently do an online shop for. We were given a window into internal conversation. So basically it was like our contact over there sent us an email and said, hey, we're looking to do an online shop and we've done our research. Here's these places that we should talk to, some of which were national providers, a couple of which are in our backyard, one of which we know a lot about. So they intuitively, and everyone is intuitively aware that everybody offers online shops these days, and they're trying to figure out what's the difference. Like what, and it's going to come down to things like, are there setup costs? Are there not? What are operating costs and fees? All the capabilities and things like that. So the way that we kind of come at shops or try to is understanding what's the audience that you're wanting to. We got to start kind of with the end in mind. I think that's a mistake that our industry makes sometimes. They just kind of assume everybody should want and need an online shop, and they kind of just shoot immediately to products, and they don't really have the conversation around who is the audience I'm going to engage with the shop. Now, the number one audience that we do that for Rachel and we're doing it for Kara is the employee audience, 99% of the time. We certainly build shops that target customers in certain instances, but a lot of times it's the employee audience. And then you go, and we have a whole set of onboarding questions that go through and talk about what kinds of items and how are we going to pay for things and how are we going to ship things and things like that. But with that, Rachel, I remember when we first connected, you were looking to do a shop to engage the employees, right?
Yes, there is a lot to be said about reinforcing your culture through the way that you represent your company. And one of the easiest ways to represent your company is to wear your company. Like I'm wearing Service Metal apparel and I'm part of that team. And just my presence of having that clothing on speaks to my coworkers as well as to people that I'm interacting with outside of this building. And it was very important to me as we curate this that it was clothes that people want to wear. If I'm seeing somebody at the grocery store in a Service Metal shirt, I feel like that's a big win. It's not just clothes that are like, oh, I guess I have to wear my employee shirt. No, it's something that we're very proud to wear. It's good quality clothes, and it's something that's fashionable. It's not just a uniform. It's been really, really easy to develop that, and it's been developed over time. We're at 3 years, I think, Landon, of a very successful shop presence. I mean, my employees actually ask me continually, when's the next door? When's the next door? And they put their money where their mouth is, that they're the ones purchasing the apparel. And that just really speaks volumes.
I think you hit on a really important point, which is just having a belief in this stuff. Not everybody does. Some people see it as something like we have to do. The employees are asking for it. Service Metal and many others, obviously, that we work with, including C. Herman, understand the value of having quality merch that employees wear. And we always say, if they wear it even when they don't have to, you're winning. So that comes down to a lot of picking the right kinds of items and decorating them the right way. The other thing I think that's interesting, I remember we worked with you. We launched it, and also I want to say this, we always talk internally, and we are constantly working to get better at this, is that we see shops as a program and not a product, and it should be in one of the following phases at all times, never stopping. The wheel should never stop turning. And Matt and Ross are on here. I'm probably going to mess this up, but it's build, launch, process, review, essentially. I think I actually got it right. So, and it should be in one of those stages at all times. So with that in mind, like we launched with Rachel, and we kind of went down the road like with Kara on this too. A lot of different logos we were kind of working with initially. And we've had to implement some fees related to different logos because of the fact that the permutations can get pretty unwieldy to manage. But in addition, we started talking through embroidery is easy. Embroidery is something that you can offer in online shops. It generally lends itself well to being done in low quantities. But you get into like screen printing and what's called direct-to-film transfers, which are very, very popular in our industry today. Most online shops today that are offering on-demand screen printing are doing it with DTF transfers, which is essentially a printed transfer that gets applied to the item with heat. But I remember going through a lot of conversations, Rachel, with you about we need to make sure we understand how this is going to feel on the end finished product, because transfers generally work really well. So you see our logo is script with some block text, and even Rachel that she's wearing, not a ton of what we would call fill, not a large imprint, not a fully filled imprint. It's just text. Transfers can work extremely well in that environment. However, they have, and you guys call it the bat signal.
Yeah, what do we
like a badge, big round badge with a ton of fill. You take an imprint like that and you stick it on the back of a shirt with a transfer, and it'll immediately start feeling like a gigantic piece of plastic, because that's what it is. And it creases. And the other thing is it doesn't breathe. So you go and you take you buy like a shirt that's meant to breathe, and provide airflow, and like you put a big gigantic piece of plastic on one side of it, and it's not going to work. And I actually think we went through some of this with Kara as well. This is like, Kara, I don't mean to pull you in on this, but we're so fresh. I think there's some relevant points there too. But Rachel, talk a little bit about that, because I think my view, and again, we're never really the best to say where we add a lot of value, but walking through the process of thinking through, like, okay, we understand the audience that we want to engage with this shop, but next, in order to do that, what kinds of items, and then how do we want to decorate them, and then coaching you through, and even sending some samples in some cases so that you can touch and feel and see what we're talking about. Talk about that process a little bit.
I would say that the first year of our partnership, a lot of it was logo education for both of us. We started, 6 logos, I think we had that we'd set up for use on various applications in various colors. We have a big symbol that's that big round logo you referred to. And we even did a large, completely unique design for one of our shirts. It was nice that you guys make that process easy as far as, hey, we don't think that's a good idea, and here's why, and sent those samples so that we could feel the way something feels. And when it comes to clothing, it's critical. If somebody
Yeah.
gets a shirt and it feels like plastic, it feels like the acrylic, nobody's going to want to wear that unless they have to. Going through the various iterations of logos, we've pretty much landed on some really solid choices. So as we work through that, now when I go to launch a new item, it's a very, very quick back and forth of, hey, this is what I was thinking. And Matt and Ross, oh, how about this? That's a great idea. Let's do it. Right. And if it wasn't for that partnership and how often we've gone back and forth for logos, we wouldn't be able to do that. And I'm always a big fan of easier and faster.
Yeah.
We do. And so I really like that we've narrowed the logo field down for sure.
I think that's a great point too, to where, like, because we've kind of like dialed in the logo situation and the imprint situation to where we've got a little bit narrower view of the different, how many logos, and then we kind of have a really good understanding of how those logos are now going to turn out on items. That's kind of behind us, which allows us to really just focus on styles when it's time to do these like catalog refreshes.
Yes.
It makes things a lot faster.
And feedback from my sales team was part of that too. We think that symbol logo looked really sharp on a lot of products. However, if our name isn't on it, there was people that were like, well, what are we doing here? Because so-and-so doesn't know that big round SM means service metal. We're not Apple. We can't get away with just
Yep.
having a symbol and people knowing what our name was. And having the symbol and the words, well, now it doesn't look good on the product. So it's definitely an organic path that we went down to really nail down where we are.
And to me, what you just nailed down there is just, again, now you're really going all the way back to just making sure that we maintain an understanding of who the audience is and what the objective for the items are. In your case, the audience is the employees, and in a lot of instances, they're wearing it out when they're engaging in doing work. And so we want to make sure that people aren't looking at that and going, what is that? We say a lot of time, we have our full logo, we do have just the G, and we're okay with like our people internally wearing just the G because like we know who we are. But if our team is going to go out and be in front of customers, that G, people are going to think we're Grader's ice creamers. I don't know. They just don't know. So
Exactly.
maintaining clarity on the audience and what you want those things to do for you is really important. So one of the areas where I know we had challenge, and Rachel, feel free to point out others, but is lead time. So lead time is always a challenge. Now, we offer shops where it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We offer shops where we open and close them. There's pluses and minuses to each. It really is a preference thing, but that comes back to a conversation and making sure that we understand exactly what kind of experience we want to deliver. But we're constantly fighting lead time. Kara and I talked about this extensively. We've had this challenge, and Rachel's had to kind of get after us a little bit on lead time from time to time. We generally are like, right now, our standard is that once we actually start processing shop orders, whether they're available 24/7 or they're open and closed for a period of time, which when we open and close, we generally do that 3 to 4 times a year, usually taking orders for somewhere in that 7 to 10 business day range. We want to deliver in 3 weeks. I won't go into everything that has to happen once we actually execute on an order, but that can be a challenge. And when you live in the world that we're in with Amazon, where everybody expects everything to be on their porch in about 15 minutes for free, it's a bit of a delta between what they're experiencing like in our world and in that world. And it is important that we're obviously held to a standard, but also that we're educating the market, because that's something I've said to Rachel, I know, is like, shops are awesome for us add a lot of value. We love them, and it's a great program for us to put in place with our customers. But when we do them, we basically take our relationship with Service Metal, actually our relationship with Rachel, and we divide it up into how many employees you got?
175.
We divide it up into 175 pieces. And what happens is every person that orders from that shop that maybe doesn't absolutely love their experience for whatever reason, and we're always working to make sure that that's the case, that will find its way back up to Rachel or Kara or whoever our contact is.
Your employees will always tell you if they think it's been too long.
Exactly. And so that has to be managed pretty well on our side too, because we work really hard to build these relationships. And then when you kind of expose it to being able to be sort of this death by a thousand cuts if you don't perform well. So anyway, setting that up, obviously lead time was something we've had to work through. We've improved, and I'll be honest, we're constantly trying to think of ways, and we are investing in doing our own decoration in-house, and we're continuing to do that. We're looking to hire a person as a production lead. Most everything was sent out, but we're continuing to try to do it in-house to control it and move faster. But talk a little bit about the lead time thing.
So I think that when we first started this, we definitely had some growing pains, and a lot of it was very good reasons for those growing pains. There was some embroidery challenges that you would produce something and on your end did some QA and realized we should not send this to people. We need to stop, fix it, and then send it. Well, that's a reasonable delay. However, for our end user, hey guys, it's been X many weeks. It was something that I definitely had to account for and explain on my end. And it was just an open conversation. I supported you through that. You supported me through that. And we just took appropriate steps. Since then, one of the things that I've really focused on is as I'm internally marketing the shop, we've actually changed the shop so that way the people who are buying understand I'm buying this on July 3rd. But I'm buying fall apparel. I don't need fall apparel in July. And it's just that subtle reinforcement of, hey, it's almost football season.
Yep.
So when they don't get that item until the end of August, if that's the case, they're just in time for football season, not the middle of summer. And we just kind of have adjusted the way that we make those selections. And we're choosing that fashion and choosing those styles based on when they're going to get there, not when we're ordering.
I think that what this illuminates, and I remember this was a conversation point at that time, is like better communication, which was like, you were kind of like, hey, like some of this is legitimate, but if I'm not educated, then I'm not prepared to go and educate my people. And if I don't educate my people, then it comes back on me. So that was an improvement point on our, like, well, okay, we got to make sure they know what we know. Issues come up. So it's like our 3-week time frame for delivery assumes everything's available, assumes everything goes in and gets decorated perfectly, and there's no issues, no out of stock, nothing that has, like you said, a QC issue. So that happens, but many times there's going to be something along the way that'll come up. So educating not only our primary contact, but then equipping them to educate their audience is critical. And we've made a lot of strides there. I think there's still more and more things we can do to communicate. But the last thing I'll say about that is that's where we find that making sure that it's a true partnership to where it's like, look, we're not out there saying that we're going to deploy a shop and we're going to bat 1,000 and there's going to be no issues. We've been down this road enough to know there will be issues. It's not if, but when. And making sure that we are of the mind that, like, we know we're going to have to improve this over time. There's going to be things we do really well out of the gate, things we don't. As long as there's that partnership and we're able to take that feedback, that's why I go back to the loop of the build, launch, process, and review. That review part's really important because it's like, we're going to build it, we're going to launch it, we're going to process those orders, deliver. Then we've got to triage that and go, okay, what needed to be improved? Well, this item didn't sell, or this item turned out it was really low quality. We've got to get that out of there. Or, hey, why were we so long on this particular thing? Well, we didn't account for the fact that those hats had patches and we ran out of stock, so that's got to be improved. Whatever it is, got to be a partnership.
Yeah, 100%. That's the key to success is the good communication, and I can always count on that.
Yeah. One other thing that we are actually still working on trying to figure out, it's a little tricky, but you did it and Kara actually did it, is you guys created some internal material. This is where I say Rachel is a marketing person. I mean, at her core, you've created a lot of materials to support promoting it internally. And we've been trying to figure out how do we, because again, your brands, everybody's brand's different. There's this desire to kind of take some of the items in the shop and put those images in, which you've done. But you found that to be pretty critical, and you did that on your own. And admittedly, this is not something that we're doing as well as I would like us to do long term, which is providing kind of like a a starter kit, if you will, of graphic support items. That's like, hey, feel free to do what you want, but part of our package is we're going to hand you. Kara did a postcard. Rachel, so talk a little bit about that, Rachel. Some of the things and what you've done, why you did it, and how they've impacted things.
Well, so since so much of my company is not in the same place, we have 5 different locations and we're thousands of miles apart. We heavily rely on digital marketing internally and externally. And so when we started to launch the shop, there was a lot of digital signage about the store. There's emails about the store. There is infographics that I've created to explain how the store works, like Rachel is not the t-shirt fairy. Goodson is who's selling you clothes. Call Goodson if you need help. Like that's a lot of really informative things that they need to know. It was just a very natural fit for using that as an informational piece through the digital marketing, as well as just flat promotion of this is the cool shirt, you should buy it. AI has definitely made that easier. I love that now I can show AI the clothes that I'm going to be selling in the store, and it gives me images of people in warehouses wearing those clothes. It's fantastic. It definitely leveled up my marketing game, and I appreciate that very much. But it's really nice because people want to see what it looks like. People, they know they can't feel it. So they want to see what it
Yeah.
looks like on a human. And that's really as close as we can get. It really drives the buzz. It really drives the reminders. Hey, the store's going to close in 2 days. Did you place your order yet? Being consistent is key with the marketing for the stores because you don't want to be a drumbeat of like, oh yeah, the store, right? It needs to have that buzz. It needs to have that limited exclusivity, and it's pretty effective.
Yeah, I think one of the things too that we talk about when it comes to marketing the store, and you really do have to market it internally, is we're not equipped to really pepper, employee groups, nor do any of our customers really want us doing that because they got plenty of things they're already trying to communicate to their employees. Plus, I mean, the day and age we live in these days with security on inbound email traffic and firewalls and on and on and on, depending on the type of company you are and the security protocols, it's like it's going to be something that our partners generally have to handle. So our involvement would be providing some assets to make it easy if they don't either have the wherewithal or desire to create those things. But the marketing, keeping this thing in the front of the mind of the people that you want to use it. That's one reason, by the way, the jumping off point we find for something that's available 24/7 versus something that's like an open and close is that we find that sometimes it can make the marketing challenge easier to where it's like you bring it to their attention for that small period of time when you want them to pay attention to it, then you take it away, you update it, you improve it, you bring it to their attention again, and so on. Makes it a little bit easier as opposed to when it's all available all the time, it can become out of sight, out of mind. What we found easier over time. Now, granted, you go in and you update the catalog and you try to tell them that you did that.
Yeah, very much so. And having the ability that, when I work with your team, and we typically try to have 2, maybe 3 items that are brand new that have never been offered before. We also take away items that are out of season or we're just for a special event. When we hit our 70th, we had limited edition clothes for that. And by adding in and taking away, it's a pretty standard retail model of act now.
Yeah.
And it's very effective.
And we kind of have not mentioned the most successful programs, and I'd stop short of saying we quote require anything, but we really don't like going forward with shops where the company is not participating in the cost for employees on some level. And because we just find that the effort that both parties put into building a shop and launching it always functions better in the long term if the company is putting their money where their mouth is, like you said, in helping offset. It doesn't even have to be a ton. It's just I think employees have to see that the company is giving me some money towards what we're purchasing. There's just this intuitive thing with employees where they're like, I don't want to pay 100% out of pocket for something with your logo. So that seems to work extremely well.
Yeah, and it's been a balance for us because we don't give people we call swag cash. We don't give people swag cash very often. I think we've done it twice.
Yep.
And it's one of those that there is an expectation that, for the most part, we're buying our own clothes. That's why we worked very hard to curate that price point. And when the request was, hey, let's put some premium items in the store, some of those premium items were pretty high end things. And there was a recognition of those are kind of expensive.
Yep.
Here's some swag cash because they want us to look professional. They want us to look nice and have those nicer brands. And I have been threatened if I ever take Brooks Brothers out of the store for the ladies, I will be in big trouble. So
Yeah,
the premium brands definitely aren't going anywhere because I have some strong professional women who love to look good.
that's awesome. Yeah, no, and actually that's a great segue into what our partner series next month we'll be talking about, which is we're going to have Storm Creek on. So we'll go back over to the vendor side and we're going to talk about ladies styles and just how ladies in terms of corporate apparel, which, the styles have come a long way. Still a long way to
Yes.
go, but they've come a long way.
Yes, yes, they very much appreciate how much we've put into the women. That having the variety that we do is very much something the ladies here talk about because we really don't all want to wear a button-down shirt and a polo every day. We like to look different, and Storm Creek's been really, really successful for us.
Yeah. So we're up against time. First, Rachel, I appreciate you doing this. We appreciate our relationship and friendship with you and willing to come on here and talk about authentically what's worked well, what hasn't. So first, thank you for doing that.
Always happy.
From our perspective, to put a bow on everything is obviously we have online shops. We talked at the beginning about that. Is you can generally, everybody in our space for the most part is going to say they do that, but we like to think, and we hope Rachel's confirmed that how we do this, it's not that we have online shops, it's how we go about it to work with a company to understand who they are, what audience they're trying to engage, what products and decoration methods make sense in order to achieve those objectives, starting with the end and working backwards and making sure that the shop as a tool is set up well to accomplish your goals for it. So with that, thanks everybody for being here. You can go to our website, goodsonsupplyco.com, click partner series. This should be up in the next few weeks. Thank you all for being here. Rachel, thanks again. And we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.